Hey, hello, and welcome to another episode of the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca.
And this week on the podcast, as usual, we're going to be talking about some of the live events that we've recently attended, some news from around the state, including updates on the revamped Camp Christmas. And later in the episode, we'll have my interview with Lee Kaplan, founder and artistic director of Debut Theater Company in Fort Collins.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing that conversation later in the episode. And we also want to touch on a topic that quite literally affects everyone in theater, whether you are an audience member or a playwright or a sound designer or an actor. We're talking programs.
That's right. Yeah, programs have been kind of in the news lately. You know, I don't really think about them that much, but there's a little bit of kind of some insider news there and a few other things. So we'll get to that in a moment. But first, what we've seen. So I want to kick things off by talking about my favorite show this month is Dracula, Comedy of Terrors. So this is at the Denver Center's Garner Galleria. This is a absolutely absurd take on the Dracula story, written by Gordon Greenberg and Steve Rosen. And so the Denver Center assembled really, really great cast of mostly familiar Colorado actors and one fellow named Zach Kononov, who has been in a lot of touring productions, but it hails from Denver. So he was great. The fabulous Leslie O'Carroll, always hilarious. Sean Scrutchins, who does serious work, but also is a great comic actor. We see him a lot on the Colorado Shakespeare Festival stages. And then the 1-2 punch of Marco Alberto Robinson and Adrian Lee Robinson. So Marco is the only one who plays just one character. He is Dracula. And so this is, I was reading a little bit about the show and they kept talking about how it's like a queer show or gay. And I'm like, I didn't see that there. I mean, there's a little bit of this one part where Dracula kisses Harker. But I don't know. They didn't lean into that aspect of it as perhaps some other, because it was started in New York, I think it's a couple of years ago. But anyway, the funny thing is that anybody who's ever seen Marco on stage knows that he's pretty ripped. I mean, if he's just wearing a short sleeve shirt or whatever. And so in this show, he takes his shirt off. I mean, he is really ripped. I mean, I was just like, holy shit, this guy must spend all of his waking hours when he's not in the theater working out. And so he looks great. And of course, Adrian is beautiful as well. So you've got, sort of this, I don't know, there's definitely a deliberate eye candy aspect to the show, but it's also, it's you could compare it to some Pythons, some Young Frankenstein elements. There's Rocky Horror elements, vaudeville, melodrama. Very silly, lots of sight gags and pratfalls and slapstick. Fantastic tech, beautiful set, great lights and sound. The whole thing is just, and you and I have talked a lot about the Garner Galleria, and they've had, this is their cabaret space where they usually look for shows that they can stand up for months on end. And like last year, what was it? It was the Broadway, what was that one called? It was some kind of Broadway, spoof of some sort that went on forever. Oh no, Gutenberg, yeah. But there was also they've done some of those. Gutenberg was kind of like a little bit of an albatross. I think there was some reason they just couldn't get rid of it. It was up for so long, and it was just kind of an okay show. And it's a great space, and this is like the perfect show for the Garner Galleria. It's hilarious. Jen and I went, and we were both like, kind of like, you walk out of there like wiping your eyes, just from laughing. It's that funny and just fantastic.
It got the Jen seal of approval too.
I know, my wife is the toughest critic out there, and such great. I mean, Leslie O'Carroll as I said in my review, she's one of those actors who, like, as soon as she appears, if it's in a comedy, and she does great serious work too, but if it's a comedy, and when she comes on stage, you kind of tease up your laugh reflex to see what she's going to do. And Sean is the same way, and just can't recommend this one enough. You've got plenty of time to see it because it runs all the way into May. So that's Comedy of Terrors at the Denver Center Garner Galleria.
That sounds, like a whole heck of a lot of fun. I've been thinking about walking over there since I live in the neighborhood now and just checking it out on an off night, buying her tickets, even though I'm not covering it for work, because it just sounds like so much fun from reading your review.
Yeah, it is. I'd definitely recommend it. The other thing that I didn't get to any other shows this past weekend. I was at the Nuggets game last night versus the Bulls. And so This was my
Did they
first.
win? I haven't checked the. I didn't check
No,
the
they
score
lost.
before.
They lost by like 3
No.
points. Yeah, I know. It was kind of a bummer. But the Bulls, they were good. I mean, they were really good. They kind of have like a 50-50 record, but I think they needed it. They'd been kind of winless for like 5 games, and so I think they might have been a little hungrier than the Nuggets. But the thing I wanted to mention was like, so we were up in the nosebleed seats, but the sort of like the theatrical element of these games is, of course, it's nothing new to anybody who's been to them. But if you haven't, like I didn't realize how much stuff goes on between, I guess, when they're showing commercials, that they've got all this space to fill. And they had like a middle school marching band out there and like basketball, hoop contests. And, of course, the dancers, which I don't know if they call them cheerleaders. They just called them like the Nuggets dancers or something like that, which was, pretty good choreographed stuff with like, I don't know, I think about 12 or 15 folks in that cast. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. It's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. I also had my own ball arena experience.
Yeah, you're at the other one.
That's right. I was at the Avs game on Sunday night. I watched them destroy the Islanders. They had a really terrible first period. Honestly, probably one of the worst of their entire seasons. But I'm going to guess they probably got a pretty intense pep talk from coach, because they came back and they like absolutely dominated after that. Beat them 4-1. Great game. But exactly like you were saying, in between everything, like them playing, they had so much entertainment kind of coming on from the obviously the live coverage that they were doing, to the people who were cleaning the ice in really fun ways, to the games that they were playing. It was just incredibly elaborate and fully produced. And I don't know about your night, but ours was a sellout.
Yeah, it was. There were definitely some open seats where we were, but I'd say it was pretty close, to be in a full house. And it's just it's a really interesting opportunity for, different types of artists, whether they're, kids that are playing in the school band to, dancers, or I don't know what other kinds of things they get out there, but I could see like someone like a juggler or an aerialist or, any kind of performing artist could get it in there. And it looks like they make, there was a group of older women called I think they called themselves the Shimmering Seniors, or the, I don't know, Sparkling Seniors or something. They came out and did like a little dance routine that was pretty low key, but and they have a thing up there. It's like, hey, if you're interested in bringing your group on, so it's kind of wide open. So like, it's kind of like almost open mic at the Ball Arena if you want to get something together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I wonder how you get those spots. Like, do you pitch to Ball Arena? Like, if there's like a magic act or somebody who juggles, for instance, can you, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be a bigger act, even though of course they can put the camera on you and everybody can see something close up. But I think they probably lean towards, a bigger group, and unless
like
you've
a
got
dance
something.
group or something.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun, and still staggering how much they charge for concessions there. It's like, the two of us had we each had a couple of beers and it was like 60 something bucks. No worse than the Denver Center, but it's just sometimes you just like, holy shit, come on. Although the Nuggets.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was wondering if the Avs have the same thing. Nuggets have like a short menu of like slightly cheaper things.
That's exactly what I was about to mention, Alex. Yeah, I was about to say Ball Arena has tried to mitigate that, where they've like rolled out the $5 food items, and you can get draft beer now for $10 in certain stalls around the stadium. Which I think that's for all things that are all sporting stuff that's happening.
All the Ball Arena and the Crunkies or whatever. There's the Crunkies, whoever own all that. But yeah, it's shitty beer. But if you want slightly better beer, you got to pay for the big can. So
that's right.
The other thing, non-theater thing that I watched over the last week was Death by Lightning, and I really wanted to recommend this one. This is on Netflix. It's kind of a historical, a historical fiction sort of show. It's a limited series. I think there's only maybe 4 or 6 episodes. It's got Nick Offerman in it. He plays Chester Arthur, who's becomes the vice president. He's just this boorish, like, just kind of a party animal. I don't mean a drinking party. Well, he drinks his face off too, but he's like a machine, the political machine. who just kind of stumbles into being the vice president, and then of course the president, because Garfield gets shot, and of course the other main character is the guy who shot Garfield. His name's Charles or something like that, who's a really fascinating character and really well acted. I don't have the actor's name at hand, but I'd recommend that as a really interesting, well done story about a short time, the shortest presidency of just about, I think he was only in office a month or two before he got shot, and then he languished for a while. But anyway, so Death by Lightning on Netflix. So. And then you were out to a bunch of stuff, Tony. What you saw, well, let's hear it.
Yeah, I was quite busy. This is definitely busy season in the arts and culture world. Tons of stuff going on. I kicked it off with something not theatrical, but definitely cool and arts related that I think people should have on their radar. I went over to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science to check out the opening of their new installation, A Brick Planet, a magical journey made with brick Legos. And this installation is in their touring spot, but unlike some of the other ones that came through, like Poison, you don't have to pay an additional fee. This installation is free and included with museum admission. And it is an exhibition that kicked off its run in Las Vegas, and now it is a traveling exhibition created by acclaimed Lego artist Sean Kenny. And it's made from more than 1.5 million Lego bricks.
Legos, man. What a cultural phenomenon they've become. The simple little click together brick from, is it Sweden that they come from?
No, I don't know I'm not sure where they started, but yeah, it's crazy the level of fascination that people have with Legos. I was there during the members kind of only day before it officially opened to the public on November 14th. And it was just packed already, filled with tons of kids. And I was talking with the museum staff, and they were like, yeah, we are anticipating crazy demand through this upcoming weekend and the holiday season, just because kids, yes, are very interested, but they've also done quite a bit to make the installation, I would say, appealing to teens and adults. Something that, for instance, last week on the podcast, we talked about Dinos Alive over at the Immersive Exhibition Hub or whatnot. And that really is only for children. I cannot really recommend it for anybody above kids. If you got a kid who loves dinos, like you mentioned, you know somebody in your life who does.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely take them, but this is something I think everybody will enjoy because it's these massive sculptures, like things like peacocks and snakes and spiders and butterflies and polar bears and penguins, as well as recreations of Times Square, the Empire State Building that just, it's really towering and impressive, the size and scale and scope of these installations and how they kind of communicate and tell these different bring these different ecosystems to life. So I would definitely recommend folks get out there. You've got quite a bit of time to see it, as this is up until May 3rd, 2026. So nice long run.
All right. And then you were at Curious Theater's new show, Job. Tell me, so you seem to, your review was pretty positive about it. How'd you like it?
I really enjoyed it. This is my favorite thing that I've seen from Curious. I said in season 28 in the review, that's basically just this and one other show, but I'll say it here too. I think it's the strongest thing they've produced in 2025. It's this really interesting two-hander about a woman who loses her job at a big tech company after she has a pretty public meltdown. And so she's sent to a therapist, and she has to get this therapist's approval to go back to work. The piece really kind of relies on these two performances from Tuli Sandoval as Jane. If that name sounds familiar, it's because she is Eric Sandoval's daughter.
Yeah.
And she definitely has the talent that her dad does. It definitely runs in the family, I would say, because her performance is really, it's really intense. It's brutal. She's a woman on the edge. To say that her appointment with Lloyd, who is played by Michael Morgan, who is a very regular Curious actor and a behind-the-scenes person as well, it doesn't begin well. The play begins with her holding a gun on this guy, so it's a very tense situation right from the get-go. And I would say that Tuli Sandoval just really captures the manic energy of Jane. She has this fury, this fear, and she's really dangerous. as you learn a little bit more about her job and kind of the dark webs that she was tasked with monitoring, it kind of begins to make sense in a really twisted way. This play has no intermission. It doesn't let up. It's relentless. It goes to some insanely dark places. So I would definitely no one under like 16 or 17. But I really cannot recommend this enough to adults who are looking for a serious, interesting, well acted night of theater.
That's great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out too. I should also mention that Eric Sandvold is half of the team that produced Julie. So Martha Harmon Party is her mom, who also another well-known name
That's
in
right.
Colorado theater. So she had no hope of maybe avoiding the acting bug. So that's great that she's followed in her parents' footsteps there.
And I should mention the play is directed by Josh Hartwell, known to a lot of folks as a playwright, but he also does some acting as well as directing. And I'd say this is a very strong effort from him. This is a two-hander set entirely inside a therapist's office. That could get old and stagnant really quickly, but he directs it in really smart ways that keep the energy alive without feeling over-directed, which it's like a really fine line because you don't want to just add action for action's sake.
Right.
But I think Josh does a really nice job with this piece. And again, like I said, he's assisted by two actors who are very, very capable.
All right. And then you saw Jerry's Girls. We have your review up about that one. This is a Veritas Productions production, a musical review.
That's right. Yeah, it stitches together 30 songs by more than 30 songs by composer Jerry Herman, who did Hello Dolly, Mame, and La Caja Falls, to name a few. And this is it's a review of his numbers staged rather simply. There is no dialogue written in between the acts to kind of set the scene or tell you anything about Jerry Herman's life. So you're just kind of watching these numbers be performed out of context by Nancy Evans Bigley, Ali Chung, and Dana Hart Wright. And the performers all can sing very, very well. It's very slickly produced. I would say the technical elements are all top form. But the show itself leaves you wanting a little bit more, particularly me as somebody who is not very familiar at all with this music. I know there's some of the songs from La Caja Falls because I've seen that show a couple times, but all of the other ones kind of were going over my head, and they kind of all run together at a certain point, and the staging doesn't do a ton to kind of differentiate the numbers, and so it just kind of runs together. There's definitely some highlights. I would say Ali Chung, anytime Ali Chung is on stage, she really lights it up. But overall, I would say it's just kind of it's a very well-produced musical review that I would say kind of lives or dies on your willingness or interest in seeing 30 plus songs by Jerry Herman.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think all these, it's not like a jukebox musical. I guess you could kind of compare it to that in a way. I mean, so that's what a review is in some ways. But, it's so you're always trying to go, is it a concert? Is it a theater piece? Is it something in between? And, if you're just there to enjoy the songs, it's probably fine. But like you said in your review, if you're looking for something a little more, then, you might be left wanting more. But we had a really nice note from Nancy Evans Begley, just thanking you for your review. And we always appreciate that when people, even when it's not like completely glowing review, that that artistic directors and others can see that, like, you spent a lot of time thinking about it and not just like, picking out the stuff you didn't like.
Yeah, I also really appreciated that note from Nancy. Like you said, it's not often that we get reviewed on our reviews.
Yeah.
So when we do hear that feedback, particularly like this one, I would say it's a mixed review. I try to really acknowledge what works, but there's also some of the performances I didn't think were quite as good, and some of the other technical elements that I've already just discussed. And kind of from a structural standpoint, it's kind of hard for newcomers to latch on to. It's nice to hear that was they were receptive to that feedback because, like you said, did put a lot of time into it. So
yeah. Another one you put a lot of time into, another mixed review, was, I just love the title, Daisy Violet, the Bitch Beast King. So this is a student effort over at CU, right?
Yeah, it's produced by Featherfall Theater Company. This is their first production. It's an effort by MA student Aaron Class, and this play is written by CU Boulder PhD candidate Sam Collier. And the script follows these two sisters who are kind of getting into fights. They want somebody to scapegoat for their problems. They're like, life would be easier if we had somebody to blame and somebody who could just like do all the things we can't. So they create this third sister by concocting a spell and kind of creating her in the attic, who is known as Daisy Violet. The first kind of bit of the play is very promising as you're kind of watching this Frankenstein-esque story unfold, and they're kind of teaching her how to act, but she's acting out in really interesting ways. But then I would say the story, particularly from a script standpoint, loses a lot of momentum as it shifts into the second act, which gets increasingly violent, but played for laughs that kind of cut against some of the more interesting thematic elements that are suggested about power and what we do and domination. That's kind of not really complicated in satisfying ways, just kind of played for laughs. And then the third act kind of shifts gears entirely into a kind of surreal meta-theatrical performance art piece that ends with the audience literally being invited to squeeze shampoo on the head of one of the performers in like a line, and then the play ends. So kind of all of the ideas that are established in the first and second part are kind of abandoned for this piece about why we make art and this bit of audience interaction that I found kind of at odds with, again, like I said, what was set up in the previous parts.
Right. Yeah, I thought you did a really nice job articulating where you thought they went wrong, and that, it was didn't feel quite finished, which I think is, student productions like this, that's what they need to hear, not just from critics like you, but from audiences to say like, you had a lot of great ideas here, but that just didn't all quite come together.
And I think you could hear that in the audience I was at. Like, there's a particularly grisly act of violence that's committed against the mother in the play that goes like unchallenged. That is like, I identified in the review, that's literally the point where I felt the audience turn, like, it totally lost the audience, and it never kind of recovered from that point. And so I think that there are just, with some tweakings or perhaps with some introspection on those elements, a little bit more unpacking, then we could be cooking with fire. That'd be really interesting work. There's a lot of potential here, but yeah, in its current form, it's a kind of unsatisfying piece of theater.
And the other one I was really keen to hear about, so Hold Tight Dance Company is really, really interesting dance company that does some, so it's been sort of hit or miss for me, but never deny the creativity and the, them willing to take big creative swings. So the new one is Wild Oscillations, and you really like this one, right?
I did. So this is a dinner theater experience staged inside an actual restaurant on South Broadway called Somebody People. It's a Mediterranean place that does a lot of plant-based and like inspired food. And the piece is staged inside the restaurant, and it's basically kind of asking the question, what if dinner was the performance? It's staging this combination of dance mixed with live music, mixed with live visual art painting, as you're being served a 4-course meal by the chefs at Somebody's People. And it's all unfolding in this really immersive kind of communal way, lightly kind of scripted. But I would say that the overall kind of point of the evening is just to experiment with these new foods. I hadn't had a lot of the things that we got to sample, such as like this really interesting crispy mushroom dish, this coal roasted sweet potato, and kind of slowing down the tasting process, mixed in with these really touching kind of poems and dance pieces, as an artist is creating this full-scale work to kind of as a backdrop for the evening. I found it to be a really interesting, kind of more approachable work from Hold Tight, who, as you mentioned, kind of does a lot more abstract, often experimental and somewhat obtuse works at time. If you're not willing to if you can't get on the same wavelength as them, I can definitely see why some of their other work is not is not for everybody, but this is a lot more accessible. It's really the goal of the evening is to facilitate community through these mixed mediums and get you to experience a whole bunch of really interesting food, which I would say mission accomplished.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Sounds great. And then finally, you saw Hamnet. Tell me about Hamnet. I'm really keen to see this one. I'm sorry I missed it at the Denver Film Festival.
Yeah, me too. I was out of town. Otherwise, I definitely would have been at Hamnet. This is the new film by Chloe Zhao. But I, as listeners of this podcast know, I'm an avid AMC A-list user.
Yes,
I've got this movie pass over there. And for one of my 4 movies this week, I went to the Dolby Early Access screening of Hamnet. This is based on the Maggie O'Farrell novel, and it is about Shakespeare and his wife, Anne Hathaway, or as she's called in this version, Agnes, kind of meeting, falling in love, having kids, and then going through some trials and tribulations that leads him to create Hamlet. It is, I cannot recommend it enough for theater people. It is such a moving film, but definitely bring some tissues. I, and like everybody else in the Dolby theater, was like weeping throughout the screening because it goes to some really sad places. But yeah, even though it's sad, I still think it's worth watching.
All right, well, let's switch to the news section. So you had the opportunity to tour the revamped Camp Christmas with its creator, Lonnie Hansen, as it's under construction at the Stanley Marketplace in Aurora, which is where it was first staged. So what did you learn? It's a little more stripped down this year, right?
That's kind of what I thought going into it. I would say that it is just spread out, as what I learned. I had a pretty extensive conversation with him as he took me around the Stanley. This is the 7th Camp Christmas this year, and it's going to look very different than any other one that's ever happened. So as you mentioned, started back in 2019 in just the Stanley hangar. Then it went virtual in the year that shall not be named. Then it was outdoors in Lakewood in 2021 and 2022. Then in 2023, it was back at the Stanley in like this indoor-outdoor hybrid in the hangar section. Then last year, it went to Dallas, which Lonnie told me, quote, "It sucked." When talking about Dallas, he said it was outside in tents outside the AT&T Performance Center and the Opera House in Dallas, which he said is a beautiful setting, but it just wasn't, he just didn't feel that it was the most conducive for the work, and it was not his favorite to produce. He said that he always felt that Camp Christmas was best when they did it at the Stanley. And so now in 2025, it's back at the Stanley. But rather than being confined to just one section, it is spread out across the entire Stanley. The outside is being decorated by Lonnie and his team of 20 plus artisans. Actually, no, it's just 20 artisans this year. And the outside is being decorated. The 3 bars are being done up completely in Camp Christmas style inside there. All 3 floors are being decorated. The Merry Badge Hunt is spread out across the entire Stanley. The hangar is decorated. And all of that is free this year. And the only part that is paid is this Camp Christmas Express experience. And this year, and that is more like the more traditional kind of walk-through immersive part of it that's in one area. It is over in one side of the Stanley. You can pay $10 and do this Camp Christmas Express. This year it's themed like a car wash, meant to kind of wash off all the crap that we've gone through in 2025 and get you in the holiday spirit.
Oh, wow, that's great.
I would say it's actually, it is a lot different than what I expected when I first read the kind of the news about this Camp Christmas. I thought it was going to be this kind of stripped down version. And from a budgetary standpoint, it definitely is, because as Lonnie was very candid about, the DCPA partnership looks very, very different this year, as is probably not surprising to anybody who listens to this podcast, because it was announced earlier this year that Off Center was going to be shuttering its immersive theater production arm. So they were not going to be producing original immersive works anymore, and the effects of that are already starting to be shown. So this Camp Christmas, Lonnie himself is footing the entire bill.
Wow.
Yeah,
All
he's
right.
paying for it entirely out of pocket. The DCPA is helping. They're doing marketing and ticketing and stuff like that, but that is in no way producing. So this is, I think, the start of what the DCPA slimmed down off-center division is going to look like around town. And I think by Lonnie's own admission, that's why Camp Christmas, I think this year looks a lot like how his work did when he first got his start, doing kind of window installations and dressings all around the Cherry Creek area, rather than the kind of fully produced experiences from years past.
Yeah. Well, I know you're going to be out at that and you're going to have a review on the site. So we'll learn even more about what it's like to do it. But of course, it's always fun to go to Stanley Marketplace for any reason. If there's Christmassy stuff going on, even better. So
Absolutely.
this next piece of news that you had here has kind of got some interesting insights into the impact of arts and culture on the economy. What was this all about?
Yeah, so on November 6th, the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts released its latest economic impact study of the Metro Denver culture. So this illustrates how arts, culture, and scientific nonprofits organizations are impacting the economy and how they contribute to employment, education, tourism, cultural engagement, and overall economic activity, especially keeping in mind the kind of lingering effects of COVID-19. So they have been tracking economic activity every single year since 1993. And the report itself is compiled from self-reporting by 285 arts, cultures, and scientific organizations, which includes the museums, theaters, dance groups, orchestras, and the zoo that are a part of the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, aka the SCFD, in Adams, Arapahoe, Boulder, Broomfield, Denver, Douglas, and Jefferson counties. So those are the groups that are making up this self-reported study.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think, didn't they say somewhere it's even bigger than sports, which I was surprised to see that.
That's correct. That was the headline that CPR went with, that the arts are bigger than sports in the areas. And I feel that is true. I mean, factually, that's true. The region's cultural industry saw its economic impact hit $1 billion in 2024. It's grown by nearly 20% since 2023, when economic activity was about $2.6 billion. And so it's definitely big. However, definitely do keep in mind that this is considering a much broader swath of organizations than the sports teams that they're considering. They're just looking at the four big ones, the Rockies, the Broncos, the Avs, and the Nuggets attendance when they're at home, whereas this is looking at yearly attendance from the zoo, as well
Right.
as all of the museums and theater organizations. So I would caution people from being like, yay, everything is better, there's no problems in the arts, because as was pointed out in this study, much lower down, one of the biggest concerns continues to be in-person visits. It's grown 27% since 2022, but the region's 14.5 million engagements at arts and science institutes are still down 5% from what we saw in 2019. So we are not back to pre-pandemic levels in terms of actual attendance to these things. And so that should still be pretty concerning. I've heard off the record from a number of producers this year that they are seeing their houses be much smaller this year. They're attributing that to a variety of factors, including most commonly just inflation. It's a lot more expensive, so people are cutting back on discretionary spending. And I think that is why we are still continuing to see these in-person visits. And that was definitely a concern last year in 2024 when the study was actually being conducted. And so those effects are still here. They're still lingering, despite some good top-level news.
Yeah. Yeah. So mixed bag in there. There's still, as you pointed out in your notes here, that, there's this enormous source of funding in the Denver area. It's the 7 county tax district called the Science and Cultural Foundation Fund of Denver. What is that acronym again?
The Scientific and Cultural Facilities District.
Okay. So, and they got $85 million last year to arts and sciences across arts and science organizations across the region. That's amazing.
Yeah, they make up for 30% of all economic activity. That's far more than individual contributions, corporate sponsorships, in-kind gifts, foundation giving, or either the federal government, or kind of more shockingly, local governments, both state and city governments. SCFD gives more than all of those. And so somebody could also point out that SCFD is a big contributor of that bump in spending, and that is not an inaccurate assessment.
Yep.
Which, I mean, just also proves the importance of the SCFD. I'm not saying that they should go away. That's great that they're upping their giving, particularly in these uncertain times, but we're not seeing other like individuals or corporate sponsors upping their gifts at that same level.
Yeah. All right. I think we had one more bit of news that you had here, or maybe a couple more. But what's this one? John Moore was reporting on a local boy does good kind of story.
Yeah, this is just a quick hit. Friend of the pod, John Moore, over at the Denver Gazette, reported that Denver's John Carroll Lynch made his Broadway debut last week. He's playing Creon in Oedipus on Broadway at Studio 54. He's an actor who is known for his roles in Fargo, Zodiac, American Horror Story, and Crazy Stupid Love. And this is his first play in 19 years. He said he's a graduate of Regis Jesuit High School. And this version of Oedipus is an adaptation created and directed by Robert Ick that also stars Mark Strong and Leslie Manville and is a modern political thriller set on election night.
Wow, interesting. Oedipus take with election night.
Yeah, I don't know how those two things are related. I haven't read any reviews of this yet, so I'm not sure how effective that reimagining is, but it's still really exciting that a Denver boy has made his Broadway debut.
Yeah. One more little bit of news comes from way down south. Creed Rep announced their 2026 season in this past week. They're doing Fully Committed, one actor playing 40 characters in a comedy about a struggling actor. And their season opens May 23rd, and all these shows will be up by the end of June. They're doing the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which we just saw here at Parker Arts, and which I just noticed the Denver, there's a revival in New York too. I just noticed the New York Times had a review of it, and they were just kind of crowing about it. It was really one of the most positive reviews I've seen in the New York Times in a while, because there really is. It's a great show. So they're going to be doing that. Emily Van Fleet's directing that. They're doing Working, the musical, but this celebrates everyday workers with songs by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Stephen Schwartz, and James Taylor. A special Colorado 105th anniversary production featuring local creeds, stories, and trades. That's cool. And then I feel like they just did one of these, but they're doing Moriarty, a new Sherlock Holmes adventure. This is Ken Ludwig's take on it. It seems like they're always doing some sort of Sherlock Holmes thing down there, but I don't know. And all their usual stuff with their new play festival and their kid stuff and all that stuff going on down in Creed. So that's what's going on there. If you want to start planning your next summer. Also from Creed,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say also they announced they have a new director of development in Mallory Pierce. So she was 27 seasons at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. So knows how to shake the cup and get money. So as all theaters need.
Yeah, that's a great, exciting new hire. Money person is maybe not as sexy as the people who handle the artistic side, but definitely important to keeping a program sustainable.
Heck yeah.
Was very disappointed, though, in this announcement. There was nothing about when Creed USA was the documentary about the town was going to be made accessible to a wide audience. I want more people to see it. I'm going to keep talking about it until I hear when they announce that release date, Alex.
Yep. We'll definitely let people know when we hear anything. So on the sort of theater adjacent world of musicals that made it into film, the new Wicked film, Part 2, is out. Have you seen this yet? Is it here in Colorado? I don't know.
So as of recording this, we're recording this on Tuesday, the morning of Tuesday, November 18th. The first Wicked screenings are going to be happening tomorrow, November 19th in the afternoon. Those are early screenings at all of the major theater chains. However, you are likely shit out of luck if you have not already booked your Wicked tickets, because at least in the Denver metro, those tickets are gone. Those don't exist unless you want to go to a screening at like 10 at night. So I'm not doing that. Thursday, it goes into kind of previews, and then it opens wide for folks on Friday. That's when I'm going to be checking it out at my local AMC. It's one of my AMC A-list picks for this week, Alex. I'm going to be checking that out Friday. I am definitely excited. It's got a lot of buzz. I really enjoyed the first Wicked. Folks can read my review of that on OnStage Colorado. I wrote about it last year, and so I'm very excited for this one. The cast has just been doing a shit ton of promo. It feels like it's everywhere. I was looking at a Wicked Swiffer the other day in Target. I can't say I was tempted much to buy it, but if you are in the market for a pink Glinda Swiffer, you can get it.
All right. Yeah. Well, my family was talking about it on our WhatsApp chat, and my son Austin down in Mexico City got a chance to see it down there. For some reason, it opened earlier there, and they said it was fantastic. So, which, I'm sure anybody who likes this property will enjoy it.
I think that's an accurate assessment, Alex.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because when we return, we are going to talk about playbills and programs, and then we are going to throw to Alex's interview with Lee Kaplan, who is the founder and artistic director of Debut Theater Company up in Fort Collins.
OnStage Colorado was brought to you by the Aurora Fox Arts Center, presenting the Farnsdale Avenue Housing Estate Townswomen's Guild Dramatic Society's production of A Christmas Carol, November 28th through December 21st. The Fox will welcome some of the true grand dames of the Colorado theater community to the stage for this hilarious nonstop journey into a holiday show gone utterly and madly wrong. Tickets at aurorafoxartscenter. OnStage Colorado is also brought to you by the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, presenting Mary Poppins, November 20th through December 28th. This classic tale of a struggling family brought back together by a special nanny and a spoonful of sugar will bring extra cheer to your holiday season. Tickets at fac.coloradocollege.edu. Also supporting the podcast is Curious Theater Company, whose production of Job runs November 8th through December 7th. With razor-edge dialogue and an unsettling edge, Job is a taut, provocative thriller that asks urgent questions about mental health, corporate loyalty, and what we're willing to sacrifice to keep our place in the system. Tickets at curioustheater.org. OnStage Colorado receives support from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, whose production of Every Brilliant Thing plays December 5th through the 28th at Dairy Arts Center in Boulder. This one-man show, starring Matt Zambrano, is a deeply funny and life-affirming play that lifts up the good in all of us. Tickets at betc.org.
Okay, we are back and here to talk about playbills. This is one part that is kind of inside baseball, but a recent agreement by the Broadway League and Actors Equity Associations announced that productions in New York no longer have to include stuffers. So these are the inserts inside playbills that are listing the names of understudies and other cash changes. Instead, they can kind of create a web page that's accessible via QR code to house that information. And so this news kind of prompted us to consider our relationship to programs in 2025. Why do we still have them? Do they matter? What do you do with them if you have them? Those are all questions we're going to dive into a little bit.
Yes, this is deep. Yeah, those cast change slips, I think we can say that audience members kind of hate them since they fall out and you're like, oh, what am I going to do with this thing? I'm sure the cleaner-uppers afterwards find them all over the floor, but of course it's important to the actor who stepped into an understudy part to get that recognition.
Yeah, it definitely is important, but I think this change also kind of points to a larger trend of either no program shows or what we might call a light program shows, where you get a one sheet with a QR code to find out the rest. I actually experienced both versions of those shows this weekend. Daisy Violet was a no program show. That is a QR only show. When I went, it was really funny. I overheard an audience member say, $15 and no program? What the hell? Which I was like, that's hilarious. I was like, it's so fitting that we're going to be talking about this week because it is, some audience members definitely do expect it. And then I've also gotten the kind of light program that when I went to Curious Theater to attend Job, they do kind of a one sheet that just gives you the essential information. And then they link to a QR code where you can find more information about the cast and whatnot. And I know I always go to that QR code because I need that information in order to properly do my job. But the kind of question is, do other people go to those sites to kind of read all that information after the fact? Or are you kind of doing a disservice to the cast and crew by not putting their bios and information in a physical program?
Yeah, I'd be curious to know which theaters in Colorado are actually, doing a job of tracking those page views to see, how many people are going to them and what they found. I mean, I'm fine with those, one slip with the QR code, but I think in the main, a lot of people really like the full program, perhaps even maybe the older crowd too, which of course makes up a good part of the audience. But, it is an expense in material and labor to produce in a time when budgets are tighter than ever. So if that's, one way to kind of cut a little corner, but still get the job done, why not?
Yeah, and we've definitely seen that trend of QR codes for programs here in Denver. There's obviously still plenty of examples of old school programs, like both the Denver Center does a really splashy multi-page program for every single show, touring or in-house that they do there, as well as the Arvada Center does that. But those are the bigger houses. When you look a little bit smaller down, you definitely see a myriad of those QR codes directing you to the program online. And I think it's interesting as the New York Times just published this story about playbills with a reader's question about whether or not those physical programs that companies do produce, like the DCPA, whether they can or should be recycled or reused.
Yeah. It was a bunch of questions about programs, but that was one of them. And they quoted Molly Braverman, the director of the Broadway Green Alliance, which is a nonprofit that seeks to reduce waste in the theater industry. And she said, programs are the most visible forms of waste in the theater, but they're far from the biggest form in terms of environmental harm. The theaters, probably just with the old sets that they're throwing out and things like that. It's certainly something you want to at least try and reuse them and or recycle them.
Absolutely. And they reached out to somebody from the National Resources Defense Council who confirmed that, at least in most places, even programs that have glossy or coated paper, like the ones that you receive at the Denver Center, those are still recyclable. So you don't need to feel guilty about taking them home with you and then recycling them at home. They will recycle.
Yeah. And of course, many theaters have a place to leave your program after the show, presumably so that they are either reused or recycled. Although in this New York Times story noted that there's a sanitary issue because some of those folks cleaning up say that patrons might put their gum in there, or I don't know. I can't imagine many people doing that, but certainly they could spill drinks on them or whatever.
Well, I guess if you think of the program as like people just coming in and they think of it already as trash that's going away, yeah, put that gum in there, whatever. I can't say I've ever done that though, and I've never seen it happen, and I hope to never. But I also, in that piece from the New York Times, there was this really fun question that a reader asked about why the iconic Broadway playbill has that distinct yellow cover. Quote, Alex Brish, who is the chief operating officer and senior vice president of Playbill, he is the third generation of his family with a leadership role at the publication, which his grandfather acquired in the 1970s. He said that his grandfather and his colleagues had experimented with different hues when they were trying to choose a banner color for Playbill back in 1973. And when an ink specialist came in to help with the decision, his grandfather asked him what the cheapest color to use in bulk was. The answer, yellow. And that, if you can believe it, is the main reason that they moved to yellow. Although Alex kind of clarified that in retrospect, his grandfather's addendum to the story was that it was a darker color. It would be hard to see in theater, but it was a happy circumstance that this bright color was also the most affordable.
That's so interesting. Wow. Well, of course, some people still collect playbills. Or programs. I used to, but I gave it up since I'm at an age where I'm trying to get rid of stuff. I still keep ones from shows that I was actually in, but I know you have quite the library, Toni, but I think you told me recently that you were starting to have to kind of pull back a little too, just from the sheer volume of shows that you get to.
Yeah, that's accurate. When I first started collecting playbills, I don't think I ever anticipated I would be seeing the number of shows that I am now. And so when I was moving from my apartment in Louisville to my place here in Cap Hill in Denver, I was like confronted with how out of control my playbill hoarding had gotten. And I was just like, I just have to bite the bullet and take all of these to like the recycling plant. Like any of the ones that are not from either a Broadway show, a show I was in, or something that I'm like, that was a really impactful production. It unfortunately did go in the recycling bin.
Right. Yeah, you just can't just pack rat everything. At some point, you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's enough. All right. Well, if you're a theater person with thoughts on programs and how your own organization deals with them, shoot us an email at info@onstagecolorado.com.
Or if you are a theater goer who has been listening to this conversation, you can share with us, what do programs mean to you? And are there any particular ones that you save? Alex and I just shared a couple of the ones that we keep. What about you? What do you hold on to? All right. Well, now we are going to go to Alex's interview with Lee Kaplan from Debut Theater.
Just in this.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are here with Lee Kaplan, the founder and artistic director at Debut Players in Fort Collins. Thanks for being on the OnStage Colorado podcast, Lee.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I was looking at your bio on the site, and that one year stuck out that you've been doing this since 1991 at theater. That's quite a tenure. I think that might be some sort of record in Colorado for an artistic director, but I don't know.
Oh, I'd love to find out if it is. That's amazing.
Yeah. It's like our oldest son, I think, was born in 91. It was a while ago. So great. And so before we jump in, you have some exciting news going on with Debut coming up. But first, I just want to ask a little bit about the theater itself. So you primarily do kids theater. So you're doing classes and Nemo Junior, stuff like that. Or can you tell me a little bit about the program?
Absolutely. I would love to. And before I do so, when I started it in 91, I intended to do it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was the goal of my brother and myself. He's Greg Osterhout. My brother is the technical director. We said, we'll do this for 5 years. But it was such a rewarding experience that 34 years later, we are still doing it.
That's fantastic.
We have a very unique structure. We have what we call a troop structure. And that's where classes are broken down by age and experience level. And those kiddos in that class take on all aspects of theatrical production. So they're not just acting in plays. They are also designing the set, the costumes, props, set, sound, all within a curriculum that is age-based and experience-based. So they begin with cardboard and then work their way up to, dimension and blueprints and levels.
Wow, so that's such a great experience.
Yeah, what it also does is that it's in theater, acting is very interpretive, whereas technical theater is creating something from nothing. You have these pictures in your head of what the playwright is asking for, but you need to make them real. So it really complements the creative process of young people. And kids as young as age 6 understand the imagery in their head. Now, how do I get this image and how do I make it something that goes on the stage? And that's where the adults come in, is to teach them how to do that.
And now, in an average year, how many kids do you have going through Debut?
We have 120 students every semester. None of our classes exceed 15 in number. Mm-hmm. So, for example, next month in December, we will have, over a 3-week period, 9 separate productions.
Wow!
in different venues. Yeah. So we also only do classic literature. So we do stories that are based, that have withstood the test of time, and come from known playwrights or known writer adaptations that have intent and purpose. So when you said Nemo, I love Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is awesome as a movie, but we're more inclined to be doing a Hans Christian Andersen for the younger ones.
Okay.
And an Oscar Wilde for the older ones.
Okay. What are a couple of the titles that you're doing this semester?
Okay, this semester we are doing an original adaptation of Frankenstein in our teenager group. We just finished a Nancy Drew mystery at the Lincoln Center a few weeks ago. We are doing The Emperor's New Clothes with some of the younger kids, and Winnie the Pooh with our youngest.
That's great. That's great. I imagine you have some pretty good turnouts for that with all the friends and family of the students, right?
Well, we do, and I like to equate it with t-ball. All right, when a young person is learning how to play baseball, when they're playing t-ball, friends and family come, and it's a delightful, warm experience, and the kids have a great time, and the parents and friends have a great time. But as they progress through our program, if they get into the advanced troupe, which is called the debut players, they need to audition for that. And that group performs 9 performances at the Fort Collins Lincoln Center. And this year, both of our shows, all 9 performances sold out. So that goes well beyond friends and family.
Right.
We have a very loyal audience base that is craving this kind of family theater that they can experience together.
So those are like high school aged kids?
Our youngest in that one is 12 and our oldest is 17.
Okay, so sort of middle and high school.
Yeah. And they come from all the different schools. It's just if they have that desire to do classic theater and all aspects of it, then they come up through our program. They've developed tremendous friendships, and we don't have that competition that sometimes comes with theater when you're auditioning with strangers, because they're all rooting for one another and they're all creating together.
That's fantastic. Well, and I also saw that, so you have a number of kids that have gone through the program come back and be instructors, right?
Yes, that's in fact, I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. Again, my brother and I founded it. We have that family feel. And when you work with young people and you grow up with them and you have the honor of watching them grow and achieve and exceed what they thought was possible, and you're sharing humor and history and experiences and memories, then that becomes, by extension, a theater family. And when they come back and they teach or assist with the classes, it just makes those roots deeper.
And are you still teaching as well?
I am. This semester, I am teaching 2 classes. I teach the advanced class for 8 to 10-year-olds, and I teach the troupe called the Debut Players.
So I know that you attended the National Theater Conservatory, and you've worked with adults in the past, but I mean, you're pretty much working with youth these days. What do you think's different, or in your experience, from working with adult actors versus kids?
Kids remember, children remember that the word play is play.
Mm-hmm.
And that it is, yes, it's disciplined play, and it takes a lot of focus and a lot of time, but it is telling stories. And sometimes when we get older, we forget it's not about us. It's about the telling of the story. And I love that they remind me of that every single class. They remind me that it's about the stories and what the stories have to say. I acted with all of the local troupes or companies here in Fort Collins for a very long time before I started Debut. And they were a wonderful training ground for me to learn different aspects of theater as well. So with OnStage and with Bob Bleu and with CSU and at that time Foothills Civic Theater. And they took me in as a young adult and I learned from them. And now I pass that on to my students. So it's, I don't know, in a backward kind of way, it makes the community stronger that the older company taught me. And now I'm teaching the next generation.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So you were talking about how you and your brother were thinking you might do this for 5 years. What is it about it that keeps you wanting to do it year after year to, what makes you excited to go into each one of these rehearsals or classes?
Well, anyone who is a teacher understands what drew them to being a teacher. My mother was a teacher and she said, "Oh, Lee, you're going to be a teacher." And I said, "Heck no, I'm an actress. It's all about me. I'm going to be an actress." And then I ended up working with a group of young people in 1990 with Fort Collins Children's Theater. And when I watched them on the stage just blossoming, I went, well, golly gee, Mom's right. I guess I am a teacher, because it was more rewarding for me personally to see them shine than for me to be up there doing it myself. But every once in a while I do, dust off my acting skills and get back on stage and remember what it's like to be a performer. It makes me a better director and teacher.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you ever jump on stage at, I don't know, Bob Blue or Open Stage?
Yes, I did. I did a show with Bob Blue about 5 years ago. When there's a role I really want to do, I give it a go again.
That's great. So, well, great. Well, I wanted to move into the next thing that you'd reached out to me about, which was this exciting. So you haven't had your own space there for forever, I guess. You've just been kind of, like you said, you use different venues and things like that. But now you've had this opportunity for Debut Theater to purchase an old AMC theater. So that's really exciting. Wow.
Well, we are going to be the resident.
Okay.
In the AMC movie theater. We do have a space now, but it's very, very small. We have a warehouse where we keep overflow props, costumes, set pieces. I have a whole room of hats in my basement.
Mm-hmm.
So we're spread out all over. And then we look for venues wherever we can find them, whether they are schools or churches. Our advanced classes perform at the Lincoln Center here in Fort Collins, but there is a real deficit in performing spaces here in Fort Collins. And this opportunity presented itself where the old Cinema Saver movie theater on Drake and Shields, if you know Fort Collins, has been vacant since before COVID. And the building owner said that we can be in there in perpetuity, rent-free, but we need to bring to the building anything that is theater specific. So that would be the stage, that would be curtains, lights, carpeting, that type of thing. But anything that adds value to the building owner is putting in. So the second floor, the straightening out of the raked seating, the elevator, that will be done by the owner because it adds value to the building. The hope is that Debut will go on, and at some point I will be able to step down and pass the bullhorn or the baton.
Yeah, the torch or whatever.
To the next person, and it will be able to go on in perpetuity so that this can continue to enrich young lives and the culture of our community. And so it's through the generosity of the building owner as well as a matching grant by Ed Werner and Dame Jackie Erickson. Our capital campaign has really picked up some amazing momentum.
So the building owner is in a position where they don't need to charge rent or sell it. So there's actually...
Yeah, they subdivided the property.
Uh-huh.
There was more parking places than one would need. The space has 6 theaters. We won't be having 6 theaters. We don't need that many parking places. So he was able to recoup his original purchase price by subdividing and selling that to a storage facility.
Okay, great. Wow, that's a great deal.
It really is. It really is. And then as we get larger within the building, we'll be starting first with 120-seat theater. It is so important to me that the younger kiddos, the 6, 8, 10 middle school kids in age, that they have an opportunity to rehearse on a stage. Typically, most young people do not act on stage until they're in high school. And all the high schools have wonderful stages. And we have good programs here in Fort Collins. But the younger ones don't have that same opportunity. I like to equate that also with another athletics analogy. Imagine if you're doing soccer, but you're practicing on a tennis court. But then the actual game, you get grass.
Right.
Okay, so that's the concern with young children who don't have that opportunity to be on a stage and feel the lights regularly and project their voice out and fill the space with their energy. And this way they will be able to rehearse on a stage as well as perform on a stage. That is made for them.
Great. So I know that you're trying to raise a few $1 million. It reminds me a little bit of the way Miners Alley and Golden is doing it. They're getting, they got off the ground with sort of half of what they wanted to do, and they're raising money for the next half. So you'll have a black box theater and, dressing room and some storage and things like that. And so to get things going. And so when you're expecting that to be ready next summer, is that correct?
The projected date is April or May for the theater, the lobby, and vestibule, the ADA requirements, and the hallway leading to it.
Uh-huh. So will you be able to use the existing seating that's in there?
We will, but there will be many more we're pulling out. So if anyone needs any, let me know.
They're not the new ones with the reclining, actually more standard.
Not quite that fancy, but there is a really fabulous cup holder.
Okay. And then do you have to do anything like take all the seats out and change the rake at all, or is it okay the way it is? Or?
Well, in what we're calling the black box, which technically is not a black box, it's actually like a small proscenium stage.
Mm-hmm.
It can stay as is because we're building the stage up. Okay. Now, in the future larger theater, which is not going to be pursued until 2028, we're hoping for that to be a flexible stage. So yes, there will be the leveling out of the floors to accommodate that type of a theater space.
Okay.
And then in the classrooms and the dance rooms and the other rooms, they'll be leveled out as well. I mean, we're talking 6 movie theaters.
Yeah.
We'll have a back shop with innovative building equipment for the kids, as well as a costume shop where we can learn basic construction of patterns and blocking of hats. So there's going to be a lot of hands-on activities that are happening in this facility.
Great. Well, will this give you some opportunities to expand your programs? Like, I don't know, maybe start offering some adult classes or shows, or are you going to stick with the kids but just maybe able to have more, or you just want to kind of stay the same?
The hope. I have a couple of things that I'm really, really excited about. I don't want us to become so big that we lose our intimacy, but I would like to be able to introduce a musical theater program, and I would also like to introduce a space where other artists can rent space and do anything that has to do with expression with young people. For example, if there's someone who could teach fencing or stage combat or yoga, anything that gets kids off of their technology, out of their heads, and into their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So we really want to be kind of an umbrella for those artists. And if that means teaching to adults as well, that's wonderful.
That's great. Well, I wanted to ask about what's upcoming that people can go see debut theater, see the kids out at Lincoln Center or wherever else. What's coming up? Do you have any holiday shows? Or?
Well, we have our 9 end of semester performances that are on our website. That's debuttheater.org. And you can look it up and find out more about the capital campaign as well as about the upcoming shows. Our shows are all admission by donation. We want people to be able to come and see the theater. It is our mission to keep theater affordable and accessible to all young people. This day and age, especially, young people need the arts. There are countless studies that show that young people in the arts improve academically, physically, emotionally, socially, countless studies. And so that our drive is to get people watching and participating in theater on stage, backstage, and in the audience. So you look at our website, you'll see those upcoming shows, and the debut players perform in the Lincoln Center in May and October.
All right. Well, that sounds awesome. Lee Kaplan, founder and artistic director of Debut Theater in Fort Collins. Lots of exciting things coming up. Thanks so much for telling us about it here on the OnStage Colorado. And best of luck and breaking legs and all that with
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your interest, and we look forward to sharing our progress as it moves on forward.
All right. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Well, it sounds like Debut Theater is in a really exciting time of expansion. What a great conversation.
Yeah, it's always encouraging when theaters are, looking to get their own space, which is such a huge milestone in any theaters, and it's not for everyone, but it sounds like it really makes sense for Lee and the whole debut theater. And man, just think of how many kids that organization has exposed to theater over all those years. So she started in 91. It's a long time.
And just because she's doing theater with kids, I don't want folks to think that it's like cheap or like a kind of cutesy or anything. I've been to see several of their shows, and they are incredibly slickly produced, and it's all acted, designed, and teched all by these kids who she's really empowering to like create these really exceptional pieces of theater.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, all right. Well, as we wind down, what else is going on?
Well, next week on the podcast, we are going to have the return of our highly anticipated Colorado headliners, which you will notice is going to start being peppered by holiday shows. Be prepared. They are coming. Also on that episode, we're going to have an interview with Im Perez and Joe McIver from Unleashed Theater. They've got a new play opening December 16th titled Christmas Movie, the Play, the Beginning. I understand this is a Hallmark Christmas movie meets an 80s slasher.
Yeah, in a bloody tale to get you in the mood for the holiday season. So it sounds like they're taking a page out of the Audacious Theater playbook with rotating performances at tap rooms and restaurants, including Western Sky in Inglewood, Junkyard Social in Boulder, and the 2 Ratio Beer Works locations in Denver, in Rhino and Overland. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's nice when there is some new Christmas affair in the mix.
Yep.
I'm nothing against Christmas Carol or the Nutcrackers. I actually really like A Christmas Carol, but it's always fun to see something shake up things a little bit.
Yep.
So in the meantime, between now and when we release that next episode, what can listeners find on the OnStage Colorado site?
We've got a lot, especially from prolific reviewer Toni Tresca here. So we have your review of Job at Curious, Jerry's Girls that we talked about, Daisy Violet, and also Judith Sears down at Fort Collins reviewed Millaba Art Theater's production of A Doll's House, which she said was pretty great. And of course, my review of Dracula, Comedy of Terrors. And on the horizon, we've got a whole lot of other stuff, including your review of Wild Oscillations, which we just talked about, $1 Million Quartet Christmas by Candlelight, which is their new show coming up, Camp Christmas that we talked about, and then Batman Live at Rise Comedy, which is something they do, I guess, on a sort of a regular basis every once in a while. So I'm really curious to hear about that, what Batman Live is all about. And then you're going to go down...
Oh, yeah. Nick Armstrong just over at Rise Comedy told me this one's going to be the last of the year, but they are going to be bringing it back next year. So my review will kind of be for folks who are already planning their 2026 comedy outings.
All right. Yeah, anything with Batman is fine with me. And then you're heading down to the Springs to see Mary Poppins at the Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. What inspired you to go down to see this one?
3 words. Kelly Van Osprey.
Yes. The KVO element is going to be present in that one. So, yeah, I'm sure that'll be a fine production. I've never seen that show, so I'll be curious to hear what you think about
Mary Poppins was the first theater show I ever saw.
Oh, wow. I've never seen the movie. I just know it's about somebody who can fly with an umbrella. And that's about the extent of my knowledge of Mary Poppins.
You nailed it.
Yeah. And then I'm going to get out to the Firehouse Theater this weekend to see Let Nothing You Dismay by Topher Payne. So looking forward to that. It's another Christmassy show, but I think also a comedic one.
Definitely. So if you want to stay up to date on all of that and everything else that's going on in theaters across the state, you're going to want to make sure that you are subscribed to the OnStage Colorado Theater Blast, which is our newsletter that goes out every single Thursday. It basically rounds up all of the reviews, the news we've been reporting from across the state, as well as the calendar listings for the upcoming weekend ahead so that you can plan your weekend. So it's a really great resource. You definitely want to make sure you're subscribed to that. You can do that on the OnStage Colorado website. And then if you're taking some time to do that, why not also be sure to rate, review, and be sure you are subscribed to this podcast so you never miss an episode.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, that's all for this week. Thanks so much for listening. Again, I'm Alex Noack.
And I'm Toni Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.